Good morning, dear colleagues. Today, Valeria, Alexandra, Kate, and I are going to speak about how Disney failed the film Mulan 2020. We will begin with the brief description of the Walt Disney Company. The Walt Disney Company, commonly known as Disney, is one of the largest media conglomerates in the entertainment industry in the world. Disney was originally founded on October 1923 by brothers Walt and Roy Disney as the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. It is also operated under the names the Walt Disney Studio and Walt Disney Productions before officially changing its name to the Walt Disney Company. As one of the world's largest transnational media corporations, Disney is currently one of the major players in the modern media market. Today, Disney has a new filming strategy, namely remakes of their classic cartoons. Hollywood producers believe that Disney hits of the 90s, reborn for the 21st century, expose the studio to financial risks less. Any new story is viewed by the studio as a scam with an unpredictable outcome, while new filming of a story already known to viewers significantly increases the chances of success. One such new remake is Mulan, which first hit screens in 1998. In July 2019, Disney released a teaser trailer for a remake of the classic film Mulan about the legendary female warrior disguised as a man to fight in place of her alien father in the Chinese Imperial Army. And why did Disney decide to make a remake of this particular movie? In the 1990s, when Disney first released the Mulan animated movie, China wasn't Disney's primary market. 20 years later, now China has become the world's second largest film market, and the Chinese audience today can add millions of dollars to the studio. This is one of the reasons why Disney made a remake. Mulan is a $200 million interactive film that initially received positive reviews from critics, praising its delightful scenery and packed action scenes. Success seemed likely around the world, including the crucial Chinese market, where Mulan is set and where Disney hoped the new film would bring success to the company and strengthen Disney's influence in the country. Disney made the film in a way that would please the Chinese audience more. It is based on a Chinese legend. It features popular actors in China. In addition, the creators of Mulan have coordinated the script with the Chinese authorities in order to provide him with all the necessary permissions and hired experts to represent Chinese values in the most appropriate way for the people in China. But, however, the remake failed. In our case study, we will review the strategies Disney used to capture the attention of the Chinese public with the Mulan remake.
In our project, we employ cultural globalization theory. We conduct this research within the framework of this theory for several reasons. Firstly, it explores modern cross-cultural space as the interaction and interpenetration of local cultures as cultural and historical entities that have their own mentality and are able to preserve their identity in the context of globalization. We refer to this because in our project we analyze a case that is a bright example of Disney producing a media content as a part of its overall official policy, which aims to create more films and cartoons dedicated to different cultures, with preservation of their local traditions. Secondly, this theory explores the global production of the local and the localization of the global. That means that companies adopt their global products to incorporate local market elements, making them more appealing to a particular local market. The subject of our project is Mulan movie that was released by Disney on the global market, but its main target audience was China because the plot appeals to Chinese folktale about Mulan. In other words, Disney localized its product to the particular country.
Speaking of the key takeaways from our literature review, it should be pointed out that globalization is still relatively under-theorized. Nevertheless, we managed to identify three key interpretations of the concept provided by three theorists: Roland Robertson, George Ritzer, and J. Alexander. According to Robertson, the global interpenetrates the local. The local is never quite pure or outside the global. It's always constructed in part in response to and through influence from the global. To put it differently, Robertson subsumes globalization under. Unlike Robertson, Ritzer considered the global and the local as mutually exclusive. According to him, the spread of globalization means that the local disappears. The fundamental problem that immediately arises is that almost nothing remains in the world today that could claim the status of local under this definition. The third interpretation of globalization, provided by J. Alexander, suggests that globalization should be viewed as an autonomous concept. The local is not absorbed or destroyed by globalization. In globalization, the global and the local shape the end state. The result is locality, a blend of the local and the global. In our case study, we'd like to support the third approach, since it transcends the limits of the other two interpretations. In the course of our research, we came to the conclusion that the end result of globalization process in our selected case was precisely the mixing of two cultures. Maybe not a very successful one, but it wasn't the absorption of one culture by another.
The research question of our project is what localization strategies did Disney use to make Mulan movie appealing to Chinese audience? The goal of our project is to explore how Disney adopts its global products as Mulan film to local markets and audiences in the context of globalization, as well as to identify what strategies it uses for this purpose.
Speaking of methodology, in our case study we decided to use document analysis as a form of qualitative research in which documents are interpreted by the researcher to give voice and meaning around an assessment topic. Primarily, we focused on the analysis of a group of sources that could be identified as public records. In the first place, this group includes a number of interviews with Disney company officials directly involved in the filmmaking. These are directors, producers, costume designers, and others. We also analyzed the strategic plans of the company found publicly available on the official online sources of the Disney Corporation. Finally, the third group of sources analyzed what the official messages of the team involved in the filmmaking, such as, for instance, the credits given in the end of Mulan movie.
The first strategy of the Disney is special tribute to Chinese culture and Chinese people. The first point that should be mentioned is the elimination of the humorous dragon. Disney's live-action remake of Mulan is very different from the original animated film, and one of the big changes was completely removing Mulan's dragon sidekick Mushu. Unlike its animated predecessor, Mulan is much more faithful to the poem The Ballad of Mulan that both films are based on, and is a much darker adaptation than the animated movie. And Mushu, much to the regret of the Western audience, wasn't part of the original Mulan legend. So, in order to stay true to the original and therefore to please the Chinese audience, Disney decided to get rid of Mushu. As the producer of the film, Jason Reed said in the interview with Collider, Mushu is a beloved character and one of the most memorable elements of the animated film. The dragon is a sign of respect and it's a sign of strength and power, but it turns out that the traditional Chinese audience didn't particularly think that that was the best interpretation of the dragon in their culture. We had a lot of conversation about it. We want to tell the story in a way that is more real and more relatable. As a result, Disney replaced Mushu with a red phoenix that appeared only a couple of times just flying in the sky and never interacting with Mulan. Removing Mushu from the live-action Mulan made it a more serious movie that was closer to the source material, but stripped the movie of the animated version's whimsy and joy.
Another way to express a deep respect for Chinese culture undertaken by the Disney team was paying special attention to the characters' outfits. To inform the design of the film's costumes, which numbered more than 1,000 in all, costume designer Bina Daigler embarked on a 3-week-long research tour of China. Daigler and the filmmakers drew inspiration for the film's production design, architecture, makeup, weapons, and clothing from a number of Chinese dynasties, including many elements from the Tang Dynasty. Daigler based many of her custom designs on the rich, symbolic language she encountered during her research. For instance, animal imagery was incorporated into the armor worn on the battlefield by the characters in Mulan to stay true to what would have been the norm during the Tang Dynasty. The attention to detail and painstaking work by Daigler and her team helped to set the tone for the film. It's tremendously important to me in this film, and indeed in all the movies I've made, to be thoughtful and respectful of the culture. Every department of this movie did research into Chinese culture, painting, history, and accounts of the war, said director of the film, Nikki Caro.
Then move on to the second strategy. In order to gain a foothold in the Chinese market, the creators decided to cooperate with the Chinese authorities. Producers constantly consulted with the Chinese government and reacted positively and respectfully to any condemnation or remark in their direction. Firstly, one of the characters, Li Shan, who was Mulan's commander and the eventual love interest, was replaced by another character by Disney, because he was interpreted by the audience as bisexual in its original animated version. It goes against the official censorship policy of the Chinese authorities. Secondly, Disney decided to remove a kissing scene from Mulan movie after reviewing the film with Chinese audience and local authorities. The film's director, Nikki Caro, told the press about the kiss scene. This scene costs about $20 million. It could have been a very beautiful scene, but the Chinese office said no, we can't do it. It doesn't feel right to our people and disrespectful to our culture in general. So we cut this moment from all versions. So tolerant Disney had to choose between two important points of its official policy, namely between openness and localization of the product with the preservation of local traditions, since in this case they contradicted each other. And we will finish with the third strategy. Filming took place at 20 locations in China, including Hubei province in central China, northwest China, north central China, Far Mountains, and East China. To capture the beauty of the new film through the camera lens, award-winning cinematographer Mandy Walker was invited to lead a team of lighting and cameramen. In the interview with Khalida, she said, "We went to China 4 times and I took a lot of photos. We went to an imperial city there and we looked at Chinese art to bring the adaptation to life." Visual effects producer Diana Georgiouti added, "We hope the viewer will be transported back to China from the days of Mulan." In the credits for the live-action remake, Disney acknowledged several Chinese government bodies, especially China's Xinjiang province authorities for the help filming in the region. However, that attempt to please the Chinese government has raised their red flags. The fact is that Disney offered special thanks to several government bodies in Xinjiang which have been accused of human rights violation. To make this film more realistic and more appealing for the Chinese audience, Disney decided to shoot Chinese actors who were selected all over the world. A team of Disney casting directors visited 5 continents and saw almost 1,000 candidates for the role with criteria that were martial arts skills, ability to speak English, and star quality. Moreover, one of the creators' goals was to honor the original film. So the Chinese actress Wen, who was the character Mulan in the original 1998 cartoon, was invited to shoot the film, since her image is iconic for the Chinese audience. As a result, the cast is almost entirely Chinese, which also indicates a focus on the Chinese audience.
To conclude, Disney hoped Mulan would have great success at the profitable China box office that is now the second largest in the world. However, Mulan, based on the traditional Chinese legend, faced controversy and setbacks in China. Despite the fact that Disney used various strategies to attract a Chinese audience, the film did not resonate with the Chinese. No matter how Disney targets Chinese audiences with its Mulan remake, the film failed to tell the Chinese story in an accurate and engaging way. It mixed the scenery of traditional Western fairy tales, incompatible with Chinese history. Disney failed to do enough research on non-Western elements and stories, leading to a lot of silly mistakes in the film. This is the end of our research. Thank you for your attention, and we really hope that you enjoyed our work.